trying to pick a child, a favorite child.
I also believe that everybody is special. That's the thing. It's discovering what makes you special and different from everybody else.
So
whoa, that's $8 to $10 million a month.
it was more than that. It was a lot of money, and we had a lot of perks, and I had over 300 gas stations that I operated.
Hello, Tom Leckie here with the New Theory Podcast. Today, I have an awesome guest, and this has been a guy that I've been following for years. Fabio, Viviani.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm right here with you, buddy.
That's right, man. He's here on the New Theory Podcast. Hold on, let me give you a proper introduction because I do not want to downplay this in any way. This guy's been on Top Chef. I've seen him on Chopped, Home and Family, Rachel Ray. I mean, he's been on The Real, Wendy Williams, Good Morning America a dozen times. I mean, this guy is the real deal. Fabio, welcome to the New Theory Podcast. Benvenuti. How you doing?
It's good to be here, man. Everything good. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get to it. We start off with your formative years. As I understand, you're from Firenze, so give us your formative years, and then when did you develop, pun intended, the appetite for the restaurant business?
Well, I kind of got suckered into it. It's a funny long story. I will make a minute short. I grew up in Florence, Tuscany, born 1978. By the age of 11, I realized that my family needed a lot more money than we were able to find working, because also my mom got really sick. So when my mom got sick, I was the only one that was left without a job. And, in Italy we say, if there is grass, you can play soccer. So I had two hands. I could work. And what's going on is that I found a nighttime job from midnight till 7 in the morning in hospitality. I did not want to be a chef. I didn't want to work in a restaurant. I just got a job into the industry, and I was paying the bills. So I pretty much worked for about 3.5 years, 7 days a week, every night from midnight to 7 in the morning, getting my backpack, then going to school. And after when I turned 15, which is in Italy the legal age that you can actually get hired in a restaurant and have a paycheck and have a job, not that pays you under the table, the owner of the pastry shop say, hey, I have a restaurant. You're a hard-working kid. Do you want to come work for me? And that's how I got into restaurant business, really. I was 15 and a half, and the guy offered me a daytime job. I just wanted to sleep at night. So I said yes. And that's how I started. And then 3 years later, I actually ended up opening my own restaurant, my very first restaurant. And then fast forward 30 restaurants later, now we have 20 restaurants in the United States, 16 open, 4 about to be, 1,600 employees. Our business is in excess of 100 million now. We have a lot of staff. We consult for a lot of people. Business is great, but again, different from a lot of other chefs. They have it.
Well, hold on. This is important. You glossed over a lot of important stuff. We get to actionable. We ask the appropriate questions, sometimes the inappropriate questions. So let's get to it. Okay, so first restaurant was in Italy or in the U.S.?
Italy, Florence. I was 18 years old when I opened my first restaurant.
How did you get the money for it?
I didn't get the money. I worked my ass for it, and I got 20% of it handed to me just as a sweat equity. I had no money for it. Man. Are you kidding me? Till a few years ago, I had no money. I was broke.
Now, okay, so that's important. And people listening, we talk about entrepreneurs all the time, and don't be afraid if you're like hustling, working your ass off for someone, and you don't have the capital. Approach them about sweat equity. Hey, listen, I'll forgo my salary or forgo whatever, right? And build. Now, in terms of the chef side, and you may have glossed over. Are you classically trained? Did you go to a CIA? Did you go to school in Italy, or are you totally self-taught?
I went to the School of Hard Knocks. I sucked at school, Tom. I was not a good student, ENF, and I was not meant to fit in within a classroom. I had no interest in any field, in any historical data, geography. I could give a shit, and mathematics is not for me. All I was good was just get up earlier than everybody else, stay up later than anybody else, and work my ass off harder than anybody else. I'm a start in the culinary world. Now, mind you, I was forced to go to school, to culinary school, and actually graduate from it, because that was the only way I could have managed my own restaurant by getting the license to do so from the Culinary Institute in Florence. So in Italy, if you want to open a restaurant, you have to have a special permit, and
Correct.
one condition of special permit, which is called REC, which is a license for restaurant operator, is to finish and graduate from hospitality school. So I was kind of stuck, because I'm like, shit, now I stuck at school. I fucking hate these, but I have to do it, because otherwise I can't open my own restaurant. So I managed to make it through the years, and I got my diploma.
Okay, now, so my parents, and been very fortunate, my brothers hail from Avellino, Italy.
Yep.
So here in the U.S., and you know this, most of the immigration comes from the south and way south of Rome. Let's call it Calabria, Campania, Chile. So we know that, right? So very rarely do we have a fidanzese, come to the U.S. So where did you first move, and why? Like, did you have family here? Did you, just have a suitcase and ex-girlfriend?
No.
Like, where did you go and what happened?
So I'll make another long story short. When I was 27, June 2005, I sold all my business in Italy, all of it.
Okay.
I didn't sold it. My business partner, which was the majority shareholder of the company and the one making the decision, sold it. I just got handed a very healthy check, because he sold the business for.
Got it.
I got an exit. I made about $2.5 million from that exit, and
nice.
I was 20. I was not bad for being 27, and I got a bunch of money, and now I said, all right, I'm gonna want to go to the United States. But I was planning to come for vacation. So what happened in the meantime, between my exit date of depositing my exit check and me actually getting on a plane for Los Angeles, California, with the intent to go to Malibu tanning, is that my dad was a victim of a scam with his small family business, and he got into a lot of debt, and he was days away from file for bankruptcy. So what ended up happening, instead of being the somewhat wealthy 27-year-old kid that is about to take a vacation,
you had to bail him out.
I had to bail him out, and pretty much a good over high 90% of that savings. I know, high 90% of that savings went to bail my dad out, and now I went from having almost $3 million in the bank to have almost $100,000, and now I was in California, because I still decided to came here, because at that point I had no job, mind you. That was all I was doing for 14 years, so I had nothing. And nothing left. So I was all right. I'm at this point, I'll take a vacation and see what's going on out there. Came to the United States. Soon realized that I couldn't live with $100,000 for very long. And what I did, I created a company in Italy that, from Italy, quote unquote, because I was physically here, was billing people in the United States for consulting in Italian restaurants. So mind you, when you're in LA, there is a lot of Italian restaurants, but not really Italian, because there is nobody there from Italy and nobody speaks Italian there. They just have an Italian name. So I literally walked and biked my way to over 1,000 restaurants in the LA County, and I found a few of them that were interested in giving me some money for consulting on Italian dishes and Italian preparation stuff, because I had the background for it. One of these restaurants was in Ventura County, where I first opened my first restaurant. Actually, was Caffè Firenze in Moorpark, California. The owner was an Italian guy that was speaking Italian. Actually, moved here from somewhere in the Rome area. And he was at the point where he was making some money with his restaurant, but he didn't want to have nothing to do with it. He wanted an out. So I came there, improved the business model. I made him more money. And eventually he asked me to run the business for him. And I said, I'll run my business. I'm not going to run yours. So I bought in 50% of the business, again, with sweat equity. And that was my
So wait, hold on. So at that point, this is important. Let me cut you off, Fabiano, but this is important. Okay. So you took what you did in the past through sweat equity, but you also earn the right to get that extra 30%. So I fucking love it. Keep going. Love it.
Yeah, because I proved, before I bought into the sweat equity again, I proved them that just by owning 50% and being associated with me, he was making just as much, if not more, than what he was making by having the restaurant 100% for himself and actually be there. So I showed him that I can make him the same money by being home, actually more, without ever work, but I get to keep 50 of it. So he said yes. I bought in and eventually ended up buying another almost 30% from him, and I still own almost 90% of that restaurant. But that's how I got my kickstart, and that was about 2.5 years after I moved to the United States. And that's when I got back on my feet, made some money, and now we opened another 20 restaurants since then.
Okay, so another thing I like, and we're all busy, but there's certain points that I need to drive home. You're an Italian guy. You could easily, went right to Chicago. You could have went to New York. In an Italian community. You know what I'm saying? Like you could have kind of taken an easy road, and worked in Manhattan. I mean, there's so many things you could have done, but the fact that you went to L.A. Is a bigger challenge, and that's something that I don't want to gloss over because I've been into L.A. and A, there's not a ton of Italians, and B, the Italian food for me is not that great. So now, give me your impression of the difference between Italian cuisine and Italian American cuisine.
So, chicken is chicken everywhere. Tomatoes are tomatoes everywhere, right? So, although some ingredients are clearly better in certain regions, you're not going to get Manila clams from Rome, Italy, and you're not going to get some Marzano tomato from Wisconsin. But the reality is the preparation and the history behind and the cooking technique and the seasoning and the plating is what's the big difference. You can call something Italian, doesn't make it Italian. I can make steamed sushi. It's never going to be sushi for, a sushi roll. It's never going to be, I can make a pad thai. It's never going to be a perfect Taiwanese dish because I'm not from those regions. So lots of restaurants in the United States, they have an Italian flair to it by shaving some cheese or drizzling some balsamic or adding some garlic, but there is no culture. And when you taste the food, it's very different. So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's different, right? So one of the reasons why we won is because we brought original Italian traditional dishes, but we presented them in a way that America understands them. And I think that's where we won, where we show people that there is a simpler, more tastier way to do things while keeping them traditional, but not overworking them and necessarily embellish the plate because you have to compensate for the lack of flavor or preparation. And that's the biggest difference. There is a lot of good food in America, but original Italian food it's hard to find, and even in those higher end Italian places, the food is not really Italian. Now, the food in my restaurant is, for the most part, really Italian, but also we serve an American crowd, and I'm a business guy, and I understand that, I feed the crowds what the crowds wants to get fed. So I'm about business. I'm not necessarily trying to shove my Italian heritage down anybody's throat. As a matter of fact, I own sports bar, I own Asian restaurants, I own Mexican restaurants, I own steakhouses. That has nothing to do with Italian food.
Okay, so again, this is critical. So first, you went with what you knew, right?
Of course.
In an area that could benefit from your knowledge gap, inserted the knowledge gap, got your way into equity, made a few bucks, got into restaurants. But to get to 30, 40, to get the 100 million, you had to bootstrap or use your own money, and then you had to introduce and prove yourself to get equity from outside or money from outside. At what point, at either revenue or units, did you go for outside funds, and why?
So the first restaurant, it was 100% sweat equity. The second restaurant, we did sweat equity, but we bootstrapped some of the money, meaning we were buying back ownership as we were growing profit. So we were paying ourselves a salary, but we were outperforming our salary. So, we pay ourselves $50,000 a year, but our share is supposed to be $120,000, $70,000 go back to sweat equity, and now you're buying into that.
Got it.
So, and then from the third restaurant, we had enough credibility with the first two to finance the third one with 100% third-party capital. Then I started to study growth. I started to study geometrical growth and expansion. We created a better plan. We pitched better investor, and now we went from 3 to 6. And then from 6, we went from 6 to 12, from 12 to 17, and now in the next 13 months, I have 9 restaurant openings.
Wow.
But now we tapped into government funding, bank loans, and other things that, this is going to sound terrible, but they're not for peasants in the industry. Meaning, if you are a person that you have 1 restaurant or 2 restaurants or a small family business, you don't even get to know these things because you're not hanging out with the people that provide that kind of knowledge. Today, I'm at a point where in restaurant business, I can literally have unlimited funding for virtually no personal risk and an interest rate that it's the lowest you've ever heard in history. Although, now banks are not very happy to give out loans because of who we are, because of what we build, because of our track record. I can borrow money for 50 points, and virtually I have unlimited funding to do whatever you want. And legally, I'm not necessarily eligible for pay this money back if something goes wrong. Now, you always work to make sure it goes right, but that's a big relief point because nobody usually give you money without expecting them back.
Well, that was my question, and you can give as much as you're willing to share. Of the outside parties, are we looking at private equity, VC, angels?
You're looking at angel. You're looking at government funding. There are scenarios which is very hard to access to. So it's not going to sound like a bell, but there is a component. It's called EB5. EB5 money is a third-party investor from foreign countries that are trying to legally buy into American business ownership to provide American jobs in exchange for green cards and citizenship. And it's 100% legal. It's 100% approved by the federal government and state regulated. And you just like abroad investors. And,
what's the minimum? But what's the minimum number needed for that? Because I know with DACA and all this stuff going on, I know business people that are here in this country that may get deported, but also have businesses. So what's the minimum level of funding you have to invest? I mean, you may or may not know that. I'm just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so state by state, it's between $500 and $750. Usually it's not less than 5, not more than $750, but you can't be in the United States. If you're here, it's too late. If you came illegally here, you can't invest money to save your ass. You have to be home, whether you're Chinese, Mexican, German, Russian, it doesn't matter. If you have the funding and the availability to invest in America's growth, then you're likely going to get a green card under certain circumstances. There is no criminal record. You have to be like a immaculate, like. But it's very hard to get it. But again, this kind of money, it's very commonly used when you get to the point that I am in business. It's almost impossible to get it unless you have a track record that a federal government and state agency trust you to invest money of people coming into this country. Got it.
Okay. So again, there's a lot of key learnings. So this is almost like an MBA program in under 15 minutes, right? So you leverage to get to a certain point. You leverage those resources. Things open up for you, either because you rock it at a certain level or you start researching it. So I love what you're doing there. I do have an important question, and then we'll wrap it up. So we'll see how people are best to reach you. I saw you on Chopped. I saw you, in a lot of different stuff. And to be really candid, I loved you from the beginning. I was a huge fan of yours from the entertainment side. Huge fan. Here's my question, and this is. I mean, share what you want to share. Did you make a few bucks, hire a publicist and then kind of get on these shows and your personality won and you grew from there? Or did you go on these shows and that helped you make a few bucks? What came first, show or the dough?
The show came first, definitely came first. But
okay.
The show came first. And unlikely what other people make you believe, most people that are famous, they're not making any money because television pays you nothing to do it. Definitely Top Chef and all the show you see me on it, they don't pay anything. That's my free time going out there. But Who's Smart has a plan. And the fact that you're on TV and you're going to be on TV for a few months gives you the chance to leverage that against your ability to make few bucks. For example, when I first went on Top Chef, I had one restaurant. It was my first restaurant in the United States. I didn't have 2, I didn't have 3, I didn't have 5. I knew I was going to be on a TV show for 4 or 5 months. I called every corporate, every festival organizer, every marketing director. I made in excess of 3,000 phone calls in 90 days prior to the show. And I said, hey, while I cannot tell you the outcome of how I will place on the show, I can tell you that you're going to be very happy and entertained by watching me. So if you have any corporate event, corporate function, please consider me. And literally, I went from making $60,000 as a salary in my very first restaurant in the United States to make over $300,000 in hiring, in getting hired for event, personal function and shit once the TV hit. But I made over 3,000 personal cold calls, and I might have sent twice as many emails to people that I couldn't reach over the phone. And what I can tell you, I could have hired a publicist, trust them to do the work, pay them $3-4 grand a month as a retainer, and get nothing done. Did you ever hear the say that if you want to get shit done, give it to a busy person?
Yeah. You had to do it, right?
That's me. That was me. I don't trust anybody to take ownership of where I'm going next. Everybody in my organization follow a procedure that I set in place because nobody's going to have a higher standard than myself for what my next 10 years is going to look like.
Got it. Now we're gonna wrap it up soon, but you're pivoting a little bit, and I don't know if you're ready to talk about this, but you're pivoting a little bit in the tech space, and you have some new stuff brewing. Are you ready to talk about it or not yet?
Yes, I'm ready to talk about it. So I built a platform. I built a platform that is called Dapple. Are you familiar with the concept of the doppelganger in the movie industry? Doppelganger is the guy.
Else?
Yes, it's the guy that gets a beating for you. It's the guy that when the actor is too much of a wussy to get a beating on a screen or jump out of a flaming car, the doppelganger takes a beating for you. So what I created is the perfect marketing tools and the perfect engagement tool. Dapple, which will be released in Apple Store and Google Play by April 30 of this year, 2018, is a platform that allows experts, influencers, and celebrity to interact 24/7, 365 with their audience live, like it's on FaceTime, without actually being there. The way it works is very simple. You are a podcast host, you are an expert in your field, you get subjected to thousands of questions, whether they come from clients, from your customer service center, from your follower on social media. Everybody needs to know something about you or your business. And the best way to build trust is to have personal conversation. Now, that is impossible to happen on social media. But if you go on Dapple, you can go to Tom LaVecchia profile, you can go to Fabio Viviani, you can go to Sean Thomas, Gary Vee, Kobe Bryant, you can go to the influencers that you respect and like the most, or you can go to the expert that you trust the most, ask a question, this person will record a video answer that is going to live on our database forever, and any other person after that first person asking that goes there and asks the same things over and over again is going to see a video reply right in front of him, just like he's Skyping with his favorite celebrity. And this is all personal. And for expert and influencer, there is an extra step. You can link every single podcast you've ever done, every single white paper, blog you ever written. So if somebody asks you, hey, Tom, how do I start a successful podcast? Or somebody asks me, hey, Fabio, how do I run a decent food cost in my hospitality establishment? I can talk for 2-3 minutes on video, But then I can say, hey, by the way, I have a whole podcast about this. Just click
And
the
there's a
link on the
resource
video.
library. Wow.
It's a resource library that you access by just asking a damn question. So we made something that Google created for a very long time, just a lot more efficient, a lot more personal, and a lot more searchable, while it completely eliminating all the bullshit content that you find on social media that is absolutely useless for your outcome. And on top of that, you're going to like this. You have an Italian heritage. Are your grandparents still alive?
Unfortunately, no.
All right, so I'll give you an example that probably resonates sound with you. My grandfather is 94 years old.
God bless.
And my child is 2. Now, my grandfather speaks Italian, my child doesn't yet. So while my grandfather met my child, his grandson, they're not able to have a conversation. Thanks to Dapple, my grandfather is recording daily video answer for him to a bunch of questions that my family is asking, like, hey, how was really the struggle in World War II? How did you meet grandma? How excited were you to see your son graduate? What? I'm going to cry, man.
Oh.
So what I created is the platform that makes you live forever. And while I cannot biologically guarantee that, I made it happen technologically. So in 10 years, in 10 years, when my grandfather is no longer going to be there, my son can go to the Dapple profile of my family and ask a bunch of questions to my grandpa and have my grandpa give an answer to his own face.
Holy that I didn't know. That my mother, we lost her mother in 14, and you know she was named after. My daughter was named after her, and she does remember her. But I would love for her to answer questions. And my son Giuseppe, who was named after my brother who passed, you know, really doesn't remember her. He was young, and that would have been something that Wow.
I lost my brother I lost my brother in 1998 when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
And there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube there was fucking nothing. I don't have a picture of this fucking guy. And he was my best friend. And if I had Dapple, I would have a live library of interactive memory that I just can't go there and ask goddamn questions to the guy. Now think about you have children, you said, right?
Yeah.
Now you are young and you're gonna live a very long life. But are you married?
I'm separated, but yeah.
Separated.
Hopefully
doesn't
live
matter.
yes.
But right, but it doesn't matter, right? So think about this one now. You're in your 30, 40, 50s. Even if you record the video 2 or 3 every day, that won't take more than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Your children will still be able to interact with you just by asking a question to your Dapple. And, 30, 40 years after you're gone, your family can still learn from your memory, your life experience, your teaching, your training, and your belief. That's a fucking game changer, man. That's a game changer.
Wow. Where are you at? Chicago?
I'm out of Chicago, yes, sir.
Listen, when this launches on my own dime, I'm going to come to Chicago. We're going to interview you in person. We're going to demonstrate it, and we're going to get you 100,000 downloads because this is serious stuff. Fabio, listen, I had high expectations. I want to thank Jeremy Slate for connecting the 2 times, right, together. And Fabio, how can we find you, my man?
It's easy. Well, if you're listening to this before April 30th, then before April 30th of this year, so in a month, 2018.
Yeah, I'll get up soon. But you
just go Instagram, Fabio Viviani, or FabioViviani.com. My email address is there. If it's after April 30th, 2018, you're listening to this, just go to the Apple Store or Google Play, find Dapple, find my profile on Dapple. I'm the founder and the original Dapple OG, and just search for Fabio Viviani and ask me a question there.
I'm very rarely am I speechless. So, Fabio, thank you for being on the New Theory podcast today.
Thanks, my man. Appreciate your time and your questioning. I look forward to chat with you again, brother.
Awesome.